thank you guys for joining us. We wanted to show this film because they had told us to talk about family, and they told us to talk about community and art, and this, you know, our family is not a family of artists, and our family is not a family that shows emotion, and our family is not a family that works together historically. So we, you know, my father decided at a certain point in his life that that he was going to be all of those things that no one gave him growing up, you know? And so my father, you know, dedicated his entire life to community, and he dedicated his entire life to art, and he dedicated his entire life to his family. And I have a unique perspective as being entirely the result of that. You know, I've sat my whole life and heard all the stories of my dad getting out of prison, of my dad doing drugs, of my dad going into prison, of my dad coming home. And the one thing that always kind of like stuck out is that there was no emotional support in any of that. And as a result, you know, like I myself am sober. I have 11 years sober. My dad has 57 years sober. And when I got sober, this was something that like we, you know, you don't know how to talk about that with family. You don't know how to have that emotional experience. And so I lost my best friend, and I wrote this like for that reason, but also as this exercise of sort of like I had watched my dad become his dad when I got sober. You know, he went from like, I love you kind of dad that raised me to like, yeah, which was the dad that he had experienced his whole life. I don't know if anybody relates to any of that. Also, welcome. It's weird to have like family therapy with an audience. So, excuse me if I'm weird, but you know, and I had this experience of kind of losing this connection because we don't talk about that stuff in our family or in our community, or it's just something that we don't really, you know, like. A lot of people, my dad's inspired a lot of people to like want to be a tough guy, or to want to be, you know, a famous guy, or to want to be a lot of these things, but it's never like, you know, an emotional creature, you know, it's never. And so I kind of pretended like we were making a movie so that I could get my dad to cry, you know? And he did. Now you guys have all seen it. That was the first time I ever saw him cry. And I filmed it, and now you guys saw it too. So I guess I just wanted to give you guys some of the backstory of why we did this. And I don't know how to really turn that over, but did you ever see your dad cry?
No, men don't cry.
You do?
I thought.
Yeah, so this, you know, this whole experience for us essentially is something that we wanted to share with our community, and kind of say that it's okay that we process our emotions in public, and it's okay that we create things that are emotional, and it's okay that we, you know, share these inward experiences outward, because, you know, neither of us were raised to do that, you know? And there's a story that my dad always says about, you know, the character that my dad plays is essentially a version of his own dad. So I wanted to kind of give him the experience of, you know, being removed in that way, and kind of, you know, he's dressed like all the pictures I saw of my grandpa. And, that experience, you know, that living room looked like in the desert, looks like my grandma's living room, you know, and there's a story that my dad would always tell us of when you got out of prison, when you paroled, you had to go home.
Yeah, we did. I knocked on the front door, that one.
Yeah.
And my mom opened the door and she said, "Ay, mijo, you're home." But she didn't unlock the screen. I'll never forget that. She opened the door, but didn't unlock the screen. And I asked if I could stay there a couple of days because my parole plans fell through. And she turned to my dad, and my dad was watching the news on TV. And she says, Daddy's parole plans fell through. Can he stay here a couple of days? And my dad said, without turning away from the TV, yeah, tell him yes. And I've been gone
5 years.
I've been gone 5 years. And I walked into my room, and it was the same room I was in junior high school. And you know, it's funny because I know some of you think, you know, like I was so, I don't know what, I don't know what I was, but some of you think, well, you should have been grateful. No, you know what, screw you, not sure. So, I wanted, I mean, you go and get a hug and come on in, but it was really funny. My dad had got in trouble when he was young, and his mom bailed him out, and he promised her that he'd never get in trouble again, and he never did. I promised him every time I got in trouble, you know, and I got in trouble. So we had this big war going all the time, you know, I remember taking off my shirt. I had a big tattoo on my chest. My dad hated tattoos, you know. I walked out of the living room without no shirt, and I said, "Hi, Dad." And just as we were getting ready to get into an argument, my mom comes out with, "Mijo, you want some cookies and milk?" And I'm a tough ex-convict with murder on my record, and it's I have cookies and milk at mommy's, and it was funny. And I just got up and ended up calling up a friend and going to a meeting. And I think that's one of the things that saved my life is I immediately started going to meetings that were therapeutic.
You found a community.
Huh?
I said you found a community. You found a community.
Oh yeah, you're right. I found a community of Narcotics Anonymous, a community of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they welcomed me. And I can't blame my dad. You know what I mean? My dad grew up the way he grew up. The last person in the world that was loving was my abuelito. He was like a stone. I mean, he could actually turn people to stone. With a cara de hacha, hatchet face, he could turn to stone. You know, and that was the way we grew up. You know, it was funny because the men used to all eat first at the table, and the women were running around getting stuff and doing stuff. And it's funny, when one of the women worked, my dad had 5 brothers. If any of the women work at a family reunion, I can remember playing. They'd all be drinking in my. Somebody would say, "Art, you want a beer?" "Oh wait, hold on. Hey, Bonnie, can Art have a beer?" Because she worked. You know, so they would like humiliate him because she would. I'll never forget that as long as I live. I want all my wives to work. I mean, it was just that time. You know, that time, women stayed home and cleaned the house. That's all they did, clean the house. My mom's house was the cleanest ever. You know, they could do commercials in my mom's house. You know?
And my mom's a lawyer. So basically we felt like if the topic was community, you know, for us, community starts at home, and that's really like, you know, and home is built on emotion. And what the decision that my dad made when he had us is, you know, like, he sort of propagated our family tree anew in a whole new garden that was loving, if that makes sense. You know, I don't have any experiences of hatchet face or turning to stone or anything like that. My dad told me that he loved me every single day, you know, and I kind of wanted to bring this here and show this with the topic of family and the topic of legacy and the topic of community, and say that, you know, this film is a huge part of our family as well. My dad accidentally walked onto a movie set in the 80s and like played his cards right at a few different spots, and now you guys all know what his name is, you know? Like, you guys have all, a lot of you have grown up with him in your house just because of this one sort of, and my grandfather had already passed away. So my grandfather, you know, he doesn't know this entire side of our family, this entire, you know, I never met my grandfather. I only have the stories. And you know, what we really wanted to do is kind of demonstrate to even just, like, you know, like a few people, is that, you know, all of our work is geared towards community, because all of our work is geared towards family. And we exist in this alternate reality where there are Trejos that tell each other that they love each other. There are Trejos that cry. There are Trejos that, you know, sit up here and express, you know, what we can. We put a camera in the room and we go, you know, that's the most insane experience I've ever had in my entire life, is like telling my dad that it's okay to cry, and my dad crying, you know? And so we felt that it was really important to kind of express that like, you know, all of the community work that we do, all of the you know, service work, and all of this stuff came from this one decision that you know, we've each had to make at a certain point, which is that we're going to care about ourselves, and we're going to care about each other, and we're going to express that, and we're going to express our empathy outwardly, you know. And I kind of just felt that this film, you know, there's a tremendous amount of personal experience in there. So if anything you thought was ugly or didn't need to be there, you know, we just had to get it out to purge it. So we did that, and it always feels weird showing it to people, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's not, people don't like watching shit like that. You know? But we you know, we now exist in this alternate reality where we can express this emotion and we can share it with our community, and we kind of thought that that's where it all really starts, and that's how it all really works. And I guess for me personally, I just wanted to show everyone, like, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from, and it doesn't matter how you're raised and how you know, you can create art to express emotion, and you can bring that emotion to people. And, you know, like, if I could make my dad cry with art, then art's real, you know, like art actually works. And so, you know, he cries all the time now, which is crazy. Like, this was a huge step in the sort of evolution of our relationship and of our family. And so we thought, like, you know, what does legacy actually mean, and what does community actually mean? And it means coming together and, you know, inviting people in and expressing yourself outwardly. So we thought that we would kind of bring all of that together, and I think maybe we should open it up for questions, if anyone has something.
You know, I was so proud of Gilbert when he started this project. I had said, I said, okay, well, I got some money. No, I'll get it. And he, you know, he got the money, everything for this thing. And I think he did that so I couldn't tell him what to do. But he did everything. And then I noticed when we were doing this, and I would have a line, you know, like, you know, have you seen my son? It's like sometimes he would say, Dad, are you doing a robbery? No, well, it sounds like you're doing a robbery. It's like, you're a you're a hurt father. You're a father looking for your son. You're scared to death. So turn it down. My son told, and so I would, have you seen? I'd have to be asking instead of telling somebody to tell me. I don't know if that makes any sense. So I had to not be. Me?
You need to just, be, a little more
I had to be
yeah.
vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know how to say it.
No, you can ask somebody something in a way that they have to tell you, and then you can ask somebody like they can say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he said, no, Dad, you said no. So you had to,
vulnerability.
So we had a lot of fun him telling you what to do.
Yeah, and if you ever want to, cast your parents because it's like.
I'm your father.
But yeah, I think maybe we should have some questions if anybody has any, kind of guide the. I don't know. I can do therapy all day. There's a microphone over there. Oh, let's line up over there if anyone has any questions.
Please.
Sorry.
Please, more questions.
Hi Danny, hi Gilbert. My name is Ryan, and I want to be a screenwriter eventually in this industry. And as someone who has had their own complications with their family, and particularly with my father as well, I wanted to ask to you, Gilbert. Is there like a particular approach that you have when it comes to writing, to getting it on the page, to be able to embrace that vulnerability in order to get it on the page? Because particularly as men, like Danny said it himself, it's like, men don't cry, it's easy to say, and it can be hard for men in particular to get that vulnerability anywhere. And I wanted to ask what your approach is with that when you're writing.
Thank you. With this project in particular, I was coming from a place of I had very recently rebuilt my life as a sober person, and I had a lot of traumatic experiences around that. I lost my best friend, and I had dealt with a lot of stuff kind of that you see in this, and one of the things that I really did that really helped kind of create this barrier and then allow it to be broken is I wrote what I wanted to say about the people that I wanted to say it about, the person I wanted to say it about, and I gave him the line. So like my best friend Daniel had this insanely massive smile, like it was crazy. It was like the size of an entire room. And so I wanted to write this thing, like I wanted to hear somebody say that like he had a smile that would brighten the whole day, And so I told my dad, yeah, this is about somebody that I care about, but it's your line, and then he was able to kind of take that, feel it, and because it wasn't what his own thing, he kind of could then sneak in other stuff that he had wanted to say, and so these like emotional beats kind of become an amalgamation of what he wants to say in that moment and what I wanted said in that moment, and we kind of like was able to, it's a very weird thing to create a barrier, like you're expressing my emotion about this thing and this is the way I feel, but I'm scared to actually say it. Can you say it for me? And so then I don't know if this makes any sense, but yeah, but so you kind of create these sort of the rules of the game, and you go, oh well, I don't feel like a fool doing charades because everyone's doing charades, if that makes sense. Thank you. Sorry if I'm rambling.
Oh no, it's okay. That was great. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
That was so beautiful. I have like a two-part question. The first part is for Danny, and I was wondering what it was like for you to read the first script and have like the first conversation with Gilbert about it, because you were talking about how this like bridged a conversation for you guys that hadn't really taken place before. And my second question is kind of in relation to that. How did you guys navigate like having a director-actor relationship while you're also working with your dad and your son?
She said, what was it like reading the script and kind of like how did that create an emotional conversation between us?
You know, we have emotional conversations all the time, but reading the script, I fell in love with it. I just knew that it was the joyous part in that whole script for me was when I called the parents of that little girl, and I could hear the joy, even though there was nobody on the other line. What I said, I could actually hear in my voice their joy, you know, that she was still alive. And because there were so many times that when you have a daughter or a son that are using, you get a call after 11 o'clock, you're scared to death to pick up the phone. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, please say a prayer before you, hello? Oh, hey, yeah, what's up? You're somebody else, you know. But so when I said that, I could just hear their parents going, oh my God, thank you, you know. Wow.
So it was just so personal to our lives, you know, at that point, and that kind of like, we just, as we read it together, we would have to like stop every few minutes and kind of, you know, say like, yeah, well, you know, the reason why, you know, we're doing it, you know, and so it created this entirely different life. We have an entirely different relationship in life today as a family because we did come together and do this, and it really did open up this emotional dialogue where, you know, I guess you know, like I wrote it with like full vulnerability, and he could see that, you know, and then it became amazing to direct my dad once I like pulled him aside and was like, hey, you can't talk to me like that in front of all these people. Like, you know, like I'm not gonna like go sit down. I'm not director. So like, if you can talk to me like that, then they can talk to me like that. And like I have to maintain this position, you know, on set. And so once we kind of like found this ground of, you know, luckily my dad had this experience of working with directors, you know. So I could say like, hey, you know I'm me, I know you're you, but like, you know, you wouldn't yell at, you know, Michael Mann, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna tell him to go wait outside, you know? And so you can't ground Robert Rodriguez, you know? So once we kind of found this push and pull of me being able to tell him what to do and him being able to like kind of accept it in that way, I think that's when it became like really smooth, and now we, you know, changed the kind of the whole dynamic of our relationship just from that point forward.
Thank you.
Hi there. So this is a question for both of y'all. I wanted to ask, you know, being on set together and working with the cast and crew, how did both of you kind of feel seeing the other engaging with the community on like the cast and crew, seeing each other's approaches, but I guess basically just asking, how did each of you feel seeing the other kind of interact on like a professional level versus whenever you're at home?
So what was it like watching each other like interact with crew and that, you know, kind of seeing you as a director as opposed to
I've seen you as a director since you were 5. I stopped arguing with him when he was 5. It's like, walk away going, you're a bad dad, you're just terrible. But I think first of all, it just brought us really close because I trusted you, and I think you trusted me. But I was, and ever since I got in the film, I've always said, okay, the director's the boss, the director's the boss, the director's the boss. Well, then all of a sudden, when your son is the director, he's the boss, he's the boss, he's the boss.
I think for the two of us, the one thing that we've always had, like I had mentioned, getting sober, and my dad's been sober for 57 years, and he's been in this community. And what that kind of brings is this idea that you can sort of choose your family around you, and you can kind of like build these micro communities that are all part of some bigger community. And I think that that really lent itself very well into the film industry sort of at large, because every single set is like a micro community, and so you can have these like interpersonal relationships with people where you like deeply care about the way that they feel, and you understand and empathize with them in any kind of mode that they're in. And so on a film set, we're very used to being in these small communities that are all working towards just kind of like one bigger goal. So I think that for us, it comes natural because we spend all of our time when we're not filming as part of a community and trying to push. It's one of the reasons why we actually like when Mariana was talking about earlier, starting El Cine, like for me, I'm like, yes, let's build a community. Let's build a community of people that want to watch the same stuff as us. That's something we should do. We do like, these workshops where we bring people in and we're like, we're gonna teach you how to make a music video from start to finish. We're gonna teach you how to load Super 8 film into a camera. We're gonna teach you how to project a movie. We're gonna teach you how to, we do these free community workshops. And so for us, that's our normal mode, and so it's like, it's really easy for us to kind of like, it's habitual. It's not easy, it's just habitual for us to sort of like jump into this small spot and be like, okay, where's my place that I can fill, and how can I elevate what's going on here, and kind of try to make everyone feel stoked on what we're all doing together, because we're all working towards a goal. So if that's like, feeding people up the street on Thanksgiving or making a short film, it's the same thing, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It brings everyone together for a common goal.
Yeah, so as long as you're doing that, I think that any film crew works, just like any construction crew works, just like any, AA meeting works.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Danny, I met you 20 years ago one night, and you really, really, really helped me that night. And now 20 years later, I'm training your son in boxing, so I'm honored to be here. My question is, when you were talking about the character in the movie, did it feel like you were talking to yourself, given the character's name was Daniel, or did it feel like you were talking to your son, given that addiction runs in your family?
He said when you're talking to the character and you're talking about the son, did you feel like you were talking about me, or did you feel like you were talking to yourself? Because the character's got your name.
You know what? It's so funny. It's like I felt like I was. I was so proud of the whole thing. It's like it was really hard for me to realize what I was doing, but I loved working with you, and I loved the fact that you were actually, doing something that you learned from me and went past. It was like
Proud.
you didn't work construction, you became the foreman.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was just awesome for me to watch you work, and to know that you're the director, that's the guy,
Yeah.
I love the fact that because I got into film, you got into film. My daughter's same thing in
Yeah.
production. It's like it kind of happens the same way. Your dad's a carpenter, you're a carpenter, a mechanic like that. And so I'm glad you're not in construction. But
Well, if I was following in your footsteps before you
Yeah.
changed your life, I'd been in prison.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for such a beautiful film and all your work and inspiring. I am a screenwriter, songwriter, singer, and my son is my partner on films. And about 5 years ago, he was like, "Mom, I just want to help you because I've seen you struggle to get things made." And as a single parent, sometimes some things come up like where he thinks that I have written about him, and really, I say I have the right to my story, having watched you play basketball, and I'm writing about basketball. So I'm wondering if you came up with how to kind of separate, or how to have that communication with your child and your parent where this is what I'm writing and how to keep things separate but keep the emotional connection, because I love what you're saying about vulnerability and breakthroughs and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this project was kind of very sort of individual in that we went into it like, all right, we're just gonna purge all of this shit, you know, like it's about, you know, I was relatively newly sober at the time, and you know, like there's this, you know, this conversation that he and I had around that death scene where I was like, look, I just want to watch that version of myself die, and I want to bury him, and I want to be done with it, you know. And so like once you start there, it's like, all right, yeah, we can talk about how, you know, this we can do, you know what I mean. You kind of like, so for us, we were just like, we didn't shy away from it. I guess that's the thing. We were like, you know what, yeah, we're people, we love each other, and we're going to express what we want to express about one another. And like, you know, sometimes I felt like, you know, maybe this was going on, and I'm gonna put it in there. Sometimes you felt like this, and you can add that in there, you know. And so it's just kind of like laid it all out, really. And I think that's like one of the reasons why we feel like this is such a communal thing, you know what I mean? Because really what we wanted to do is just be like, it's okay to do that. It's okay for us to do it. If it's okay for us to do it, then it's okay for anyone to do it. Because we are not, you know, we were not raised to be on the stage. We were not raised to be, you know, like here just as a family, you know. That's just not our, you know, this is like some weird alternate universe where, you know, like there's Trejos in the film industry.
You know, I have to say that I think that death scene was one of the hardest things I've ever watched in my whole life, simply because I used to dream that just about every night. You know, as a parent, your kids are using drugs. It's like you go to sleep, say your prayers, and then you dream about, you'll wake up in the middle of the night because you hear your son say, Dad, I'm dying, or your daughter, you know, I love the realism, but the hurt is there. You know, people are going to say, well, that's really a cold movie. Well, that's the truth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, that really.
So we just have time for one more question, the last question.
Hi, this is for Gilbert. Maybe you talk about it right now a bit, but it seems like you're very good at identifying these beautiful emotions about community and family, like love and support. So why did you choose to talk about these feelings in such a painful way? Like, and maybe are you thinking about making something else, talking about these beautiful feelings in another way?
Thank you so much. Yeah, this was born out of you know, a decade of my own drug use. So I had gotten sober, and when I got sober, I experienced just before getting sober, and just after, I experienced a tremendous amount of like death with friends and loved ones, and so for us, you know, my dad got sober when he was 24 years old. I got sober when I was 26 years old, and we had both had this like really intense sort of experience early on in our lives that you know, the way to sort of disarm it, and the way to sort of like you know, take away its fangs is to express it. And so for us both, we kind of, you know, he had almost relived his experience from his youth when I was, you know, running around kind of creating my own, and so we kind of wanted to yeah, take the fangs out by just laying it all out and being like, okay, we've done it, like we've purged. That's why it's kind of so hard to even show it to anyone, because like, all right, yeah, that was like primal scream therapy, you know. Like it wasn't, you know, it was more like us trying to purge all of this negativity, and actually, you know, it's like it's like crying is the best thing to do because you know your body releases all of that energy, and so unfortunately, like ours had a lot to do with death, and ours had a lot to do with drug addiction at that time, you know, and now we just like laugh and you know, at that time we kind of just sat in the room together like, yeah, cool, so you want to go get dinner, you know, and now it's like, I'm in the mood for sushi, what do you want to do, you know, so like that's our experience now, and if we
So
like
maybe your next film will be totally different.
totally, yeah. I don't think I would ever do some shit like that again. Thank you so much. Sorry for cursing.
You know, I really want to thank everyone that's here and that showed up. I just want to say that this is a, you know, I can remember way back in grammar school they would show drug movies to like scare people, and this wasn't to scare. This was like real. You know, I think Gilbert caught the realism of drug addiction and the hurt in the family, and because it's not I'm using drugs, it's the whole family is using drugs. It's, you know, my uncle started using drugs, and after that I started, and then pretty soon every one of my cousins were using drugs. So it's this disease of drug addiction, and I think Gilbert caught it, the total misery of the whole thing, even using. You know, like you couldn't say either one of them people were happy. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah, none of that looks fun. Yeah.
you know, yeah, maybe your first 2 or 3 get highs are okay, but after that, you know, you're stealing mom's jewelry.
So yeah, thank you guys again for coming. We just really
Thank
want
you.
to.